Gremlins. You knew this one was coming. You had to know this one was coming. This is one of those rare Christmas movies that you just do not see too often coming out of anywhere. It's Christmas horror, for crying out loud. Steven Spielberg presents. I mean, this is just one of those movies. And what always impressed me was how much work has gone into this movie. So, what's it about? How does it begin? What makes it feel so good? I love the fact that the movie starts out with a, how shall I say this very kindly? It starts out with one of those nice, surprising voiceovers from the father figure. And this is a guy who clearly has money to go around and try to sell us inventions. So the family's not poor. They're not super rich, but they're not poor. And you see the son supporting himself with his family. He's got a job. It's clear that this family is not doing bad, okay? And I love the fact that he's like, I've got a story to tell you. I know you're like, everybody's got a story, but nobody's got a story like this. And he's pretty damn right. I love the fact that he goes into a Chinatown stop in what I think is either New York or maybe San Francisco. I think it's New York. Yeah, it's New York. I remember too from the second one. And he comes back to his hometown, Kingdom Falls, with Gizmo. And I love the fact that you have the wise old shop owner who is basically asked, can I buy your Mogwai? And he's like, no, too much responsibility. Totally right on this one, man. You should listen to the old dude. Too much responsibility. I love the fact that you then have him like do the backwards deal with the kid, and the kid tells him all the rules. Sunlight will kill them. They don't like bright light. Do not get them wet. And most of all, never feed them after midnight. We get the rules, but not what the consequences are, except for the first rule, which is about bright light and sunlight. So, maybe the rules should come with those little underlining reasons why, why they're there in the first place, because it's kind of an important thing. And that makes the movie so much more intriguing and actually interesting. And I gotta say, it really does a good job there. They really pull off a lot, in my opinion, here. And they do. They really do. After this, you get to Kingdom Falls. And this is where we really get the feeling of this being a small town with Christmas comes in. I love the fact that they have this song. It's like Christmas, but instead of saying Christmas, they have the lady singing the song going, Gremlins. It's so funny, and it's such a great song. And I love the fact that you see kids running around. There's one boy who runs up and slams a giant snowball on this poor girl who's just reading something on a bench. She gets off, and then she starts pelting the kid with every snowball. It's like, dude, let the chick win. And he doesn't, and it's a big snowball fight in this little town. And I love the fact that we then see Billy Pelser trying to get to work, and he's got one of those old BW bugs, and it's seen better days. And it's funny. He's got the dog in the car, and then he's like, okay, we got to run to work. So obviously he lives close enough to where he can walk or run to work, but I can understand why he would still want to take the car. And he gets in to work, and he barely misses getting fired. And then, of course, we get told these other things that keep happening, including some petition from his girlfriend about this one place that is like, where everybody's dad met their moms and stuff. It's a small town. It makes sense. And I love the fact that, you get all this stuff done, and then you get introduced to what is, in my opinion, really the one major human villain of the film, Mrs. Deagley. I hate this woman. I hate this woman with a cold demeanor. This woman tries to look like she cares about Christmas, but I think she's worse than Scrooge, in all fairness. This is a bitch. And I love the fact that she goes through, and one of the people actually tries to wish her a Merry Christmas, and she's like, what's so wonderful about it? It's like, oh, he's actually scared of this little old ass woman, and she is a cold bitch. And then I love the fact that you have this mother who is desperate for stuff. She's got her 2 kids with her, and it's clear that they are on hard-ass times. And she's like, the bank and I have the same interest, making money. And it's like, but it's Christmas. Well, now you know what to ask Santa. And she then walks in, and she's got this this porcelain snowman head under her arm. And we find out why later. And I love the fact that for that poor mom and her kids, they're like, Mom, I'm hungry. I know, I know. It really drives home that this is a bitch. Okay, so with what happens later on in the film, and you're going to love that scene, by the way, I have no problem. She then comes in, and she basically's like, I want your dog so I can kill him. He's like, Barney? Barney? And poor Barney's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna die for this bitch. And he's like, "Arr, arr, arr," trying to get the damn leash undone. And she's like, no, I'll take him to the vet to have them kill him. If you don't want me to do it, I'll put him in the spin cycle on slow. And this one dude's like, yeah, that'll do it, bitch. I mean, so then the dog gets out. She acts like she's having a fucking heart attack. Luckily, Billy doesn't get fired, but he goes to a bar later on, and it's clear he's had better days. I mean, this poor guy has had better days. And, you got this one stuck-up bank manager, and he's like, I'll be doing this job while you still be supporting your damn family. Well, apparently they're doing pretty damn good. They're not great, but they're doing pretty damn good. And then, of course, Billy's dad gets home that night, and he's got the Christmas present for him, but he can't wait. It's Gizmo. And he starts to explain the rules. We meet Gizmo. We experience the first point about the rules, the light from the flash of a camera and stuff. After this, it just slowly builds and builds. You have a lot of other little characters. For example, Corey Feldman's in the movie. It was before he did Goonies. And he comes in and stuff. And he's in a few other sequences. And I love the fact that at one sequence, he's part of the reason we discovered the water rule was multiplying. And this is when we get introduced to the group that will become the core Gremlins. And Stripe is still the coolest looking one out of the group, except I feel that in this one, Stripe has, when we first meet him, he's got this, I don't know what it is. I think his face is, they're trying to make him look like a Persian, for crying out loud. That's at least how it's coming off to me. And Stripe is real vicious, and, he's like, oh God, yeah, I'm going to just come over here, put some headphones on and read something, just in case they all decide to eat you. And poor Gizmo looks like, oh shit, oh, hell's about to break. And he's right. Then we get introduced. They've opened up the presents and stuff under the tree. I like Stripe. He's actually on like a little arcade game. Like, it's so hilarious. And poor Gizmo is trying to stay into this, and it's just not working. And then later, the Gremlins start to come up with more stuff to do. They stick the dog in the Christmas lights while looking like little angels. And then eventually they make Billy forget, not to feed them after midnight, because they actually planned ahead. He looks at his little alarm clock, and it's totally fucked up. I mean, the cord has been chewed off. That's how serious it is. And you realize this was done intentionally. They want to change. And it's so scary. It's so spooky. And as you can imagine, it just keeps getting bigger from there. There was a school biologist who also had one of the ones, he had a clone brought to him, reproduction. And that also found a way to get fed after midnight. And after that, after the cocoons hatch, this is when everything starts to unravel. Everything starts to get bigger and better. And this is when we finally see what they look like after the metamorphosis. And they are bigger, more powerful, more devious, more dangerous, definitely armed. They're, to a degree, more intelligent. But they're clearly built for combat now. And they are just such great little characters. I also want to note that the movie Hotel Transylvania plays off of both Gremlins and also the plane stuff from the Twilight Zone for those characters. But you can see a lot of the features of the Gremlins there. They were also in the Lego movie, in the Lego Batman movie. We also see the Gremlins Stripe in Ready Player One. Remember, this is all Warner Brothers stuff, so it makes sense. But it was so cool. In fact, this is one little other observation. I remember when Warner Brothers had their stores in malls, and if you would look up in the rafters, you would actually see Gremlins in their rafters, like close to the lights. That was pretty cool. And I actually had a stuffed Gizmo for as a kid, and I actually made one of the dumbest quotes. I'm like, multiply. I didn't know it wasn't a movie. But my mom's like, no, I neutered Gizmo. What do you got, Mom? It was funny as hell. But after this is when everything starts to get better. Billy has to get home and, save his mom. We see all the gremlins. His mom's actually managed to kill a couple of them. She blendered one. She stabbed one to death in slasher style, and then she blew one up in the microwave. And then Billy managed to decapitate one with a sword, and then Stripe got away. And Stripe was the last one until he got to a swimming pool and jumped in, and all hell broke loose. And when you consider how big a swimming pool is, oh my God. Just, oh my God. And there were a lot of them there afterwards. Then I like how he's trying to get to the cops to tell them, like, all hell's about to break loose. They don't believe him. And the Gremlins have this general mayhem thing. What I like is that they're just doing their nature. This is what they are supposed to do. They're not trying to be these super evil creatures. This is what they are supposed to do. It's actually what makes them so funny. And then they do one really good thing when we get to Mrs. Deagle, and I won't spoil how that happens. I do want to point out one other thing. The end sequence, which is how most of them are dealt with, which is in a movie theater, I love the fact that they have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs playing in the background. They actually have a Disney movie playing, and it's become a running gag with these things. And it was so great. And I love the fact that these evil creatures love Disney. They love Disney. It actually calms them. Even Gizmo's like, it's so hilarious, and it works so well. And it's become such a big part of the film's franchise point. It's also a little bit of an homage to Disney, since they actually were going to do something similar too. And I do want to point out that both Disney and Warner are not what I would call mortal enemies. They do actually work together on stuff, Roger Rabbit being a case in point of that. And the two studios, they do occasionally do some stuff together and work on things, and it works too. So it makes perfect sense, and I love that factor. I love what they do and how they do it, and it just works so well. So it's really cool. And the movie just continues to live up to every expectation. The Christmas feel throughout the whole movie is there. Everything, even how the Gremlins do a few things. I mean, there's one point where they're freaking Christmas carolers. And they can sound so innocent at times, and then they're like, I mean, it's so freaking funny. Oh, yeah. So this is another one that's going to be a 9 out of 10. It's a Christmas classic as well as a horror classic. They did good. Plus, I noticed that the Blu-ray says here that they've also added an additional 10 minutes of scenes to the physical movie itself. And there's a lot of content here, too, for this little Blu-ray. And in case you're wondering, this is usually about 10 to maybe $8. So this is worth every dollar you will spend into it. I highly recommend you check it out, and have a Merry Christmas.